Right now, Acting Governor Dan Patrick is in Dickinson with the Texas Division of Emergency Management just one day after Beryl swept through Texas. Let's listen in on this news conference.
Pre-planned trip, economic development for Texas. So first man up, next man up for last week and this coming week. I've been in Austin the last several days working with NIMKID, the chief of our emergency management team, and in conversations with county judges, mayors around the area where the hurricane hit. That was until this morning, because now that the hurricane is gone and the tropical storm has gone to other states, it's now time to get out and see the damage, talk to people like Judge Henry in person, find out their needs, and how we can help at the state level and in any other area. So this is my second stop. We were in College Station today, where we have a lot of our resources planned to send out to counties and cities.
I lost him. We are listening in on a news conference here by he asked if we wanted a emergency disaster declaration, to which I said yes, if it's Part A and Part B of that disaster declaration, which covers our expenses moving forward for many of the areas that the cities and counties in the state will be putting out. He said yes, and so we have agreed to that, and we are appreciative that the federal government has stepped in, and they will pick up most of the cost as we go through recovery here of the storm. NIMKID can fill you in a little bit more on that if you have questions on that. Acting Governor Dan.
It's a general number for most of the storm area, and most of that was in Galveston up to the Houston area and the surrounding counties, the biggest population centers, to account for that number. But we also have power issues in Matagorda County and some other areas as well. I've also talked to CenterPoint multiple times, including yesterday, the day before, and this morning, and we are urging them to work as quickly as they can to restore the power in the safest, but in the quickest way they can, because we know, as a longtime citizen of this area who's lived through a lot of hurricanes, I've been without power for weeks. I know what that's like, and we know what that's like for the citizens of Texas. It's tough to be in the heat. It's tough not to be able to refrigerate anything and have food. It's tough not to even be able to go out and get food. We came in here today, and one of the things the judge told me, they have to cook their own food here. There's no place to get food. So that's impacting families all across this area. I have made sure that CenterPoint is aware of that, and have asked them to pull out all the stops to get power back as quickly as they can. They have brought 11,500 crews in, not crews, but workers, linemen, tree trimmers, to add to their force of 1,675 that they have on the ground. And so we expect to see about 1 million customers get power by tomorrow, and then more each day. But this is going to be a multiple day recovery. I'll let them speak for themselves, but we're in this first 24 hours, and we expect CenterPoint or Entergy or any co-op to work just as hard as we do at the state level, just as hard as Judge Henry does, and be prepared before a storm so that they're ready to act as quickly as possible. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator Cruz, who's joined us. Just came in a little bit ago for a briefing. I appreciate, Senator, you being down in the hurricane area. I know it's a busy time for all of us, so Senator Cruz.
Well, Governor, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your strong leadership always in Austin, but especially this week stepping in as acting governor and dealing with this crisis, and doing so with the professionalism and attention to detail you always bring to serving the state. You know, I want to start by really commending all of the officials we have at the local level, at the county level, at the state level, the first responders. You know, for Texas, living across, I'm a lifelong Houstonian, living on the Gulf Coast. This isn't our first rodeo. Hurricanes are a part of life. We've grown up with them. And one of the consequences is that we have a team that knows how to deal with them. Judge Henry, you and I have worked side by side repeatedly in hurricane after hurricane, and thank you for the effectiveness that you always bring to emergency response and then to rebuilding. The first step in every crisis is always saving lives. It is first responders risking their lives to get out and keep people out of harm's way. And we've seen the fatality count right now is 7 from this storm. This was a serious storm. I was just earlier today in Jamaica Beach, was visiting with a woman who was in her home when a tornado struck the home and pulled the roof off her home. And she called 911 and she said in less than a minute, the Jamaica Beach police were there and got her out of her home. Now that's terrifying to be in your home and have the roof pulled off. And I went and saw it. It was the tornado had thrown it across the street about 100 yards away from the house. But it was a 1-minute response time for her. And I'll tell you, our first responders in Houston, sadly, one of the fatalities we saw was a civilian employee of the Houston Police Department who was coming in as a first responder, coming in because the city had asked him to be there to help people in crisis, and he came in and drove into an underpass and tragically drowned. And so we lost someone working with the first responders. We're grateful for the courage and heroism of the firefighters and police officers and EMS and everyone who goes in and pulls people out of harm's way. The next stage is moving forward, and as Governor Patrick said, dealing with power, we had, when this storm left, 2.7 million people without power. Those numbers are dropping. Right now, Dan and I both, neither of us have power, so I slept on the couch of a buddy of mine yesterday who thankfully did have AC. But you know, they are, CenterPoint has committed to having 11,500 linemen coming in from all across Texas and from other adjoining states to be out there right now repairing the work. And I know there are a lot of people that are facing the heat, facing difficulties feeding their families, and we need to make sure that moves as expeditiously as possible. I'll tell you, yesterday, someone who's a good friend of all of ours, Mattress Mac, opened up gallery furniture in Houston to anyone who needed shelter, needed food. Mac texted me last night, said he fed over 3,000 people who came by and needed food and couldn't get food because everything was closed. And I got to say, that is one of the incredible things about Texans, is that when we face a crisis, when we face a disaster, Texans come together. Texans help each other. All throughout Galveston, throughout Houston, throughout the Gulf Coast, we saw neighbors who just go help out a neighbor. You had a tree come down, you'd get a neighbor come out with a chainsaw and just help cut up the tree and pull it off. You'd get neighbors just helping clean the wreckage off of front lawns. And it's an amazing, I think Texas is never stronger. You see the churches doing what churches should be doing, helping their communities, feeding their neighbors. That we see with every disaster. And that is such an important part. When there is a crisis, there are no Republicans or Democrats. There are no racial differences or ethnic differences. It is just Texans helping Texans, and that's an amazing thing. I'll say finally, the Lieutenant Governor told you he spoke with the President about the Federal Disaster Declaration. John Cornyn and I and the entire federal delegation are supporting the state in having that disaster declaration issue immediately, and then in the next step, working hand in hand with the state officials, working hand in hand with the county judge and the local officials to make sure those federal resources are there for the process of rebuilding. Rebuilding takes time. But at this point, our teams have had a lot of experience expediting these resources to come in and help Texans stand up. And the good thing is, Texans are a resilient people. Galveston will rebuild. All of the Gulf Coast will rebuild, and we'll redo it together. And a big part of the reason is the great leadership of Nim Kidd, who who has been on the front lines of disaster after disaster after disaster, and of course is here again today.
Thank you, Senator. Let's now go to Judge Henry. Judge?
Thank you, Governor. It's always good to have the governor come down and visit us. It's even better when he comes with federal aid. So I'm very appreciative of his stop today and his securing what's going to be a long recovery. Most of you are going to be off this story by next week. We will be dealing with it for probably the next 8 to 10 years. So we appreciate the federal assistance. It's an unknown amount of damage right now. Our biggest issue has been power, as I think you've all correctly reported on. We still have 40% of the county has no electricity. I am one of those who doesn't have electricity. I spent my night in my unair-conditioned house in about 85-degree bedroom and did the best I could. So I'm as impacted as anyone in the county. I want to point out you are seeing a visualization of how government works at all levels here today, starting with Chief Kidd, who started calling me last week, saying, what can we do for you? Of course, till the storm comes, we really don't know what we need. But the fact that he was always there, and Chief Miller as well, I mean, everybody from the federal government to the state government has been saying, what can we do to help you? Now that we have requests, we've passed those requests on to them. I know exactly how they will process them, and that's very efficiently. We were just talking about some nuts and bolts stuff about how we can help some of our really small cities. So big thanks to everyone here for giving us some time and listening to our needs, Governor. Appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you continue to do for the great state of Texas.
Thank you, Judge. It really is a team effort. I think we have the best state team in the country, which means the best in the world, because let's face it, we're a state, but we really are a nation state. And we have the best at the level at the cities and the counties, and then the larger cities and counties help the smaller, as you're talking about. We were in the briefing and you were talking about with one of the mayors of the small town, how can we help them? And that's the way it works, and Senator Cruz is right. We are one when it comes to responding. The person who's in charge of the response at the state level is our chief, Nim Kidd. Nim, let me turn it to you.
Thank you, Governor. Senator, thank you. Judge, thank you. And the mayors in the back, thank you for your partnership and help, as well as Senator Middleton and Representative Leo Wilson. My name is Nim Kidd. I'm the Emergency Management Chief for the state, and I want to thank y'all for being here to help us get the rest of this message out. And the one is, as Beryl leaves this state, it is still a dangerous storm and is leaving dangerous consequences in its place. Power outages right now and restoring power is our #1 priority. There will still be places where there is water crossing roads. Please help us get the message out to turn around, don't drown. Do not drive through low water if you don't have to. I want to thank all of our local first responders that have been out there 24 hours around the clock on this. Many of them whose homes and families are impacted, just like the rest of ours, and they're still there on the job. So if you get a chance to thank one of them, please do so. Power, again, is our #1 priority. Secondary to that is establishing cooling centers and helping with generators at cooling centers if we need. The third, so the emergency declaration that Governor Patrick worked on with the President will grant 75% reimbursement for debris cleanup, and that is for all 121 impacted counties at this point. We will be working to make sure that the debris is picked up as fast as possible. Please, if you're a citizen and you're going to start doing your own debris, pay attention to your local government regulations for that. The debris will need to be separated into white goods or construction and demolition and vegetation. Please don't put it all into one pile. It only slows the recovery process. As we continue to move forward, we will stay engaged with our local elected officials and partners, and we will be here with them through the remainder of this event. Thank you, Governor.
One other issue about safety is carbon monoxide poisoning. So I know that's an issue close to you.
Yes, sir.
We've had people die from that.
Yes, sir.
So you want to talk about that a little bit more fully?
Yeah, while power is off, a lot of people are running generators, whether it's in their garage or right near windows that are open, and that carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas. You can't see it, smell it, or taste it. But if you have a generator that you're running, please make sure it is far away from the area that you're living and sleeping. We have been reported from the Harris County medical examiners at least 2 reports of carbon monoxide poisoning that have resulted in fatalities. These are preventable deaths. If you are using a generator, please make sure you're following all of the safety recommendations that generator comes with.
Yeah, so we've been talking about that the last couple of days, so we can't say it enough, because obviously we've lost 2 people for this very issue. So it's really important for the media to get that out. The anchors at the news stations, the reporters, please include that. I mean, you literally may be saving a life by getting that story out to someone that says, gee, I didn't realize that. I just didn't realize it. Obviously, there are people who don't know that, and we want to help prevent any more deaths in this storm. With that, we'll open up for, I tell you, I'm going to hold questions first. Let me go to Senator Middleton and Representative Terry Leo, if they would like to say anything. Senator Middleton?
Well, thank you, Governor. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Senator Cruz. Unfortunately, this hurricane, we had more power outages than Hurricane Ike, which we know, was the most devastating hurricane we've had in recent memory. But we're in this together, and we're not going to be able to solve this if we don't work together like we are today. And everyone in state and federal leadership is doing that. And then also for everyone in the community, look, this is the Gulf Coast. We've got what I call Gulf Coast grit. We're good at giving a hand up to our neighbors. But if you're wondering if someone is okay, if you think they have medically necessary equipment that has a battery that needs to be charged, don't risk it and call 911, please. We've already lost someone in Bolivar. Their oxygen machine ran out of battery and their generator died, and unfortunately they passed away. We don't want more stories like that. Also, if you think you need to go to a cooling center, please go. It's very important. We don't want to lose anyone else over this. So just make sure that you're watching out for your neighbor, and we're going to be here working to restore power as quickly as possible. And that was our top topic of discussion here when we met right before this press conference. So thank you, God bless you, and please make sure to keep up to date with your friends and neighbors so we can help them. Thank you.
Representative Leo?
Thank you, Governor, for coming, and also Senator Cruz. We really appreciate your help in all of this, and especially getting us the federal aid. Just to reiterate what Senator Cruz said and Senator Middleton, Galveston has a history of going through these storms, of recovering from disasters, and that's one of the great things about living here and the people here is when we have disasters, we don't have race, we don't have religion, we don't have Republican, Democrat, we don't have anything. We are all working together. So please check on your neighbors, be the Galvestonians that we know that you are, and please, like Senator Middleton said, if you need a cooling center, those will be listed on the county website. Call our office if you need help. We will, if we can't help you with water or whatever it is that you need, we will get you to the right spot. So we want your calls to keep coming. We want to help you. We are very honored and privileged to be here and to work with all the fine first responders and just all the people from Galveston County that are used to working together. Continue that, and please don't hesitate to call us if you need help in any way, shape, or form.
Or any of the mayors wish to make any comments?
Brandon Noto, Mayor of Santa Fe. Just like to thank you, Chief Kidd, Governor, and for y'all's leadership. Y'all have kept us up to date on the briefings. We knew exactly what to expect. We knew where those resources are. It really helped us do a great job being on the first line with our citizens and making sure that we could have our communities prepared. Judge Henry, Galveston County Office of Emergency Management, keeping us up to date, just making sure that we had all the resources and information that we need, and then moving forward with the recovery. We just appreciate y'all coming down and giving us the resources to start recovering for our citizens. Thank y'all.
Anyone else? Any other mayors?
Yeah, Nick Long, Mayor of League City. Really do appreciate you guys coming down here to League City today. It's we appreciate the partnership with Galveston County and as well as Harris County. It's, it was a little bit bigger than we anticipated from a wind standpoint, a little bit less from a storm surge standpoint. But now I think the biggest thing to kind of look out for also in League City is a lot of these traffic lights being down. The incidents of traffic accidents are up. They're a lot higher than normal. And so I think as you're driving around the roads, just take that into account and slow down and make sure we kind of work those four-way stops and don't cause any additional accidents from there.
Thank you, Mayor. One phone number let me give everyone before we open up to questions. If you're on Center Point and you're asking about your power, call 713-207-2222. 713-207-2222. Do not call 911. The phone lines were jammed on 911. We need to leave that open for life-threatening situations, not calling about your power. So CenterPoint is 713-207-2222. Now we'll open up to questions.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yeah.
CenterPoint appears to be slow out of the gate on this one. Here's why. The company concedes it did not pre-stage out-of-town crews in the Houston area prior to the storm moving through, so they can immediately hit the ground right after. Additionally, they only asked for 2,500 outside workers, and now they're asking for thousands more and playing catch-up. Lieutenant Governor, has CenterPoint's response to this storm been accepted?
So the first thing, in terms of the crews they've asked for since the storm, we signed a waiver. I signed waivers so that they that allowed them to come here faster. CenterPoint will have to answer for themselves if they were prepared and if they were positioned. Their company is responsible for that. The state was positioned. We had our crews in San Antonio. We had them in Corpus. We had them in Houston.
Are you satisfied?
Let me finish my answer. We were pre-positioned. I'll tell you whether I'm satisfied or not when I have a full report of where their crews were, when they were asked to come in, and how quickly they get power back. That will be the tail of the tape. How soon are people getting their power back? I heard your interview, good reporting. I heard the comment from the CenterPoint representative you talked to that I don't know if that's the company position or her position. I'll simply say this, that any thought that people were surprised that the storm might come to Houston is shocking to me. I still have my text that I sent to NIM on the 4th of July when the track, Jeremy, was Mexico and the Rio Grande. And in my text I said, I'm not comfortable with this track. I'm not comfortable with this storm. It reminds me of Ike. And I'm very concerned. They're not paying attention even to their emails, and this storm can sneak up on us. And the track started moving, and that's why we moved very quickly at the state level. How CenterPoint or anyone else read the weather and the track, I can't answer to that. But if they're a meteorologist, if they have one, I don't know that they have one. I believe they do. But if they're a meteorologist or whoever they get counsel from on weather did not say to them, you better be ready for Houston, which is the biggest population area on the Gulf Coast, because this storm might come there, well, I would be shocked and surprised if someone didn't say you should be ready for that. I just can't answer because I don't know the facts. I've talked to them, and we will get the facts later. But no one should have been surprised. And I read my text to Tim, to NIM, coming over here again, and one of the things I said, we don't know the final track, but we need to be prepared and to be ready. The judge needed to be prepared and be ready. If CenterPoint was or was not, we'll find out later, but if they weren't, that's on them. And again, the tail of the tape is how soon are we going to get power back and how soon will they be effective?
One follow-up, sir. That's
Yes.
on them, but they are a utility. And
Yes.
Can the state do anything?
Well, we have a Public Utility Commission. Yeah,
So,
Jeremy, we do.
You know, we're getting to a point where it's beyond inconvenience and the real public health and safety. It's triple-digit heat index.
Sure.
You have elderly folks, you have folks with small
Sure.
children. It's just not an inconvenience. And so, what do you pledge to do once the dust is settled to ensure that CenterPoint is held accountable?
So first of all, Thomas Gleason, who's the head of the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, we had a press conference with him yesterday. He's been talking to CenterPoint as well. And again, right now, Jeremy, if they made mistakes, we don't know if they did or not. If they made mistakes beforehand, then that will be addressed by the PUC. That's their job. And by the state legislature. That's our job. But today, Jeremy, I'm not looking at what they didn't do or should have done on Thursday or Friday or Saturday. I'm looking at what are they going to do now and how fast are they going to get their crews out, because now we're in the life-saving business. So instead of doing, we can do a post-analysis of their success or their failures after we get the power back. And so, but I think you've done a very good job of reporting on that, and I thank you for that.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yeah.
just kind of a follow-up.
Yeah.
When that report comes out, are you going to also want to be able to see, because it seems like we're having these infrastructure problems over and over again in Texas that the infrastructure itself is not suitable for something like this on a regular basis. That's something too you think the legislature is going to take a look at, and Senator Middleton may want to answer that too, because it seems like you wouldn't be in this position on reaction if it was taken care of in the first place in the infrastructure. Not a lot of it's vegetation, we know, but it needs to be kind of broadly looked at.
Well, there is a reality here. There is a reality here, and that reality is we love Texas, and we love our trees, and we have trees everywhere, and trees overhang the power lines. And I know in talking to Center Point many years ago about how often they trim the trees, it takes them about a full year to do the full round. And by the way, people don't like to take down their trees. They want their trees in the backyard. They want their trees in the front yard. And we have power lines. And if you have an 80-mile-an-hour wind or higher, or even less than that, you're going to have limbs fall on power lines. But those should be able to be replaced relatively quickly. Now, we have had, I don't know the number today yet, haven't gotten the report for today, but as of yesterday, we had 10 transmission lines down. So this was a wind event that caused a lot of damage. And power, the highest record for loss of power was 2.1 million, I think, from Ike, and we were at 2.7 yesterday, and it may have climbed higher. So we are going to have to deal with the fact if you have a hurricane or a strong tropical storm and you have a lot of wires, unless we're going to bury them all, and that would take a long time and a lot of money, that we're going to have these situations from time to time. And I think people understand that. What people don't understand is if you're not prepared for it. What they don't understand is if you don't have your people ready to go in right then. And we know that you can't send a bucket truck up if the winds are 35 miles an hour or more. It's too dangerous. We know they have to get out there, just like we all did, and assess the damage. And we know that they're going to make decisions, like the first decision to restore power to the vulnerable, to people who are in nursing homes or assisted living or other places where their generators failed or they didn't have any. That's the first people they're going to put up. The second people, if they have a circuit that has 150 people on it and a circuit has 10,000 people on it, they're going to restore 10,000 before 150. That's how they're going to do it. So the real question is, were they as prepared as they should be? And that's up to them to answer, and they will answer not only to the public, they'll answer to the PUC. And if we need to make corrections after that, we will. And if they need to make corrections, they will. But right now, we just want to get the power up, and I don't want to take their time up explaining to me what happened on Friday or Saturday. I want them to be on the ground, in the buckets, trimming trees and getting the power up. And Jeremy, that's really my answer to you. I don't want to take their distraction away from right now dealing with paperwork and who did what when. But we will have a post-analysis of this event and if there were issues so that they don't happen again. Any other questions?
Senator Cruz, I want to,
Yeah.
because the federal
Right.
assistance that come along, just for the folks that be watching, the damage assessments are the big part of that.
Yep.
Can you emphasize what needs to be done there so that the counties and the cities
Right.
can get that aid?
Well, the way the federal process works is the damage assessment is driven by the state, and the state works hand in hand with the local government in terms of quantifying the amount of damage, both damage to public facilities and then also damage to private homes. And that quantification triggers under federal law different thresholds for funding that comes from the federal government. And my office works hand in hand both with the state in terms of submitting that information, but also with the local government. And you asked a minute ago about infrastructure, and I think your question is a very good one. I can tell you it is my view, particularly that when federal funds are being invested on rebuilding, that we should rebuild in a way that is smart. So, for example, most of us lived through Hurricane Harvey. It remains the second most damaging and costly natural disaster in U.S. history, and there were tens of billions of dollars that flowed into rebuilding following Harvey. I spent a lot of time trying to focus on let's invest that money in a way that enhances resiliency. Disaster, and I think that is a very important question to focus on. I think also in terms of long-term infrastructure, you've got the Ike Dike, which obviously came out of the impetus of it came out of Hurricane Ike, but it is something that I've been working with leadership in Galveston and across the Gulf Coast for many years now, and at the federal level championing legislation to get authorization, to get the preliminary studies, to get the Army Corps of Engineers working on the different steps for ultimately building the Ike Dike, and we're seeing the first steps of a coastal barrier being constructed already. And so for long-term infrastructure, we need to continue to make those investments, but that takes real time. You also referenced my friend Mays Middleton, and we were talking about the dunes here. I think it's a good chance maybe for Mays to share his thoughts on the dunes here on the island.
Yeah, so thank you, Senator Cruz. I was talking with Terry Leo Wilson as well. And look, the dunes were wiped out here. A lot of them were rebuilt over the past few years. I know Representative Wilson had hay bales in front of her home on the beachfront. And this needs to be a chance that we look at this and find out ways to basically remediate that and repair in a way that will help prevent this in the future, because right now, those dunes are gone. So when a future storm comes in, which we're hopeful it's not, but if it does, there's not a lot there to protect homes on a barrier island, whether that's Surfside or in Galveston or Bolivar, doesn't matter. We need to make sure that we have a better way to restore those and a more sustainable way to restore those that will prevent future damages and also help stop storm surges that may come in.
And on that, Alberto had done some serious damage.
It had, yes. Yes.
Nim, did you want to add to that?
So thank you for that question. I want to direct everybody to damage.tdm.texas.gov that's there on the placard in front of Senator Cruz. If your home has been damaged, please go to damage.tdm.texas.gov and report that information. We created this app kind of like some of the car companies that if you have a wreck, you take a picture and send it in and start your claim. This is not an insurance claim, but this is the damage assessments that we need to send that to the White House to ask for individual assistance for our residents. The categories that were granted today were for debris cleanup cost and our emergency protective measures, our response cost. We still need to continue damage assessments with our local partners for road damage, bridge damage, building damage, and other utility and infrastructure damage. So all of those damage assessments will be ongoing. But if your home was damaged by this storm, please report those damages to damage.tdm.texas.gov.
Last question.
Lieutenant Governor or Senator Cruz, I've spoken to some of the families who lost loved ones after this, and now they're confused, they're devastated, they don't know what comes next. So really, my question is, have you been in contact with any of those families, and what is your message to them? What should they expect from leaders moving forward?
The honest answer is, in the last 48 hours, I have not. We've been managing the storm, managing the response to the storm. We tragically lost those two families where a tree fell on their loved ones, and then as Senator Cruz mentioned, the Houston Police Department, a civilian employee, drowned, and we will be in touch with them. We'll be there to help them, absolutely. I have 120 counties to see over, but as we said yesterday, our prayers are with them, and we will offer the assistance where and how we can. And then we also lost to carbon monoxide poisoning, so we will follow up with those families for sure. Senator Cruz?
Well, I think the governor's exactly right. I mean, tragically, when we have disasters like this, we see people far too frequently who there for fatalities. And in some instances, when you have someone, for example, who's a first responder, there are funds set up and other infrastructure set up to provide support for the family. But there's also, I think there's a really important role for the community at this point to step in and help people who are hurting, help in particular the churches. I think when we see disasters consistently, Texas is a big state, and it's large enough that we see whether it is this hurricane or whether it is tornadoes in Dallas, Texas, or whether it is the wildfires that were ripping apart the Panhandle just a few months ago. It's large enough that we face tragedies, and every time without fail what happens is the community steps up, the churches step up, neighbors step up, and listen, for everyone who lost a loved one in this disaster, I would say reach out and show them love, give them support, help provide them food, help them get through the next stages. And the way we make it through this is coming together as a state, coming together as one. We are all Texans. We are one. And the phrase Texas Strong is real, and it describes who we are. And we're one community that helps each other even in the face of grief and tragedy, that's especially when we step up and help each other.
Thanks, everyone. All the time we got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You just heard from Acting Governor Dan Patrick, Senator Ted Cruz, and Galveston County officials all saying that power restoration is their #1 priority. Patrick saying that he has signed waivers to get CenterPoint to come in and restore power as quickly and safely as possible. He says the goal is to have 1 million customers back online by Wednesday. Now, Senator Ted Cruz adding there to that statement that he has asked for the federal disaster declaration issued to happen immediately so that they can start cleaning and rebuilding. We will have more on this aftermath of Beryl on the 411. Make sure you have our app downloaded as we continue to find out when power will be restored. We're going to continue asking for you. See you again at 4.